County Democrats are taking a pass at endorsing in a big race. The week in politics brought that story, a high-profile local official calling it quits, and the continuation of the never-ending Jeffrey Epstein saga. Here to break it all down for us, political reporter Paris Schutz. Paris, I want to begin with Cook County Democrats, fresh off their semi-annual slating session, but they made news more for who they didn't endorse as opposed to who they did.
Yeah, Scott, let's set this up. So this is where Cook County Democratic officials meet behind a closed door, a smoky room, usually at a steakhouse, and every candidate that wants their endorsement pitches to them, and then they decide who to support as a party. With that, they get money, they get resources to go campaign. Now, the party chose to sit out of the Democratic race for U.S. Senate. They are not making an endorsement in that race. And that race, of course, features Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, Congressman Roger Krishnamurthy, and Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Stratton is backed by Governor Pritzker, who runs the state party. Preckwinkle runs the Cook County party, and she's backing Kelly. So consider this non-endorsement somewhat of a victory for Raja, despite the heavy-duty backing of his opponents. So the party's neutral. It comes as Raja is way out in the fundraising lead, and he's already up with 2 television commercials this week defining who he is to the public at large.
All right, Bruce, let's keep it at the city level because we know City Council met for the last time before their summer break. A few important items on their plate, right?
Yeah, the curfew issue and then the issue of granny flats. So let's start with the curfew issue. Alderman Hopkins proposed that, where the police superintendent would get the authority to declare a curfew anytime to stop these teen trends, as they're called. The initial proposal passed, but then the mayor vetoed it, so it failed this week to get the supermajority vote it needed for an override. Now, let's turn to the debate over granny flats. That came to a head. The ordinance would allow a limited amount of conversions for coach houses, attics, and gardens to become new apartments. It passed through a committee on City Council, but then it stalled in the full City Council amid tense debate. Supporters, like the mayor, say it's a way to put a dent into the affordability crisis. Opponents say it'll crowd up the bungalow belt and take away power from local alder people.
This is the mayor utilizing or attempting to utilize his political will at the expense of hardworking Chicagoans that own single-family homes.
This is about allowing gentle density, gentle growth in those areas that haven't seen a whole lot of investment, and to give those property owners, especially in the single-family zones, more options than even the investors will have.
Let's keep it in council because we know that there were some ethics reforms that were passed, but I think a bigger story that caught a lot of us off guard was the city's watchdog calling it quits, right?
It's very surprising. The City Inspector General Deborah Witzberg is in her first term. She has about 9 months left in office. She previously said she wanted to be reappointed to this position. Now, the mayor is responsible for doing that, and like most IGs and mayors, they're at odds, so it would have been very difficult for Witzberg to get reappointed by Mayor Johnson, although she did say she wanted to do it. Now she's changed her tune. It's because she passed an ordinance that would make it harder for the mayor to stonewall some of the IG's investigations. Sometimes in the past, the mayor will have an attorney present. They'll declare attorney-client privilege. This ordinance will make it much tougher to do so. So Witzberg says she has put that office in a better position.
The best and the highest responsibility of these positions is to strengthen the institutions we have the privilege of leading so we can hand them off better than we found them. And I think that with yesterday's decision, which is sort of a watershed in effective oversight in Chicago, I am now deeply confident that I can do that I can hand off OIG better and stronger and more effective and more independent than I found it.
All right, let's shift to the national level because the story of the summer, I think we can argue, is the Jeffrey Epstein saga, which continues. There are a lot of people on the Republican side, even some heavyweights, who don't want this story to go away, despite the White House saying, you know, there's no smoke here. President Trump imploring his own supporters, let this thing go. And yet he has now asked his attorney general to ask a court to unseal grand jury testimony. What do we want to make of that?
Well, let's take the local angle on this because there's so much we can make of that, Scott, and it seems like the more that he wants it to go away, the more people become intrigued, and there might be more there than people might have thought before. But locally here, President Trump is basically not being transparent, according to Senator Dick Durbin. He wrote a letter to the Attorney General and to the FBI head, Kash Patel, asking them to release what information they can, and he made the bombshell claim that The FBI told his office that workers were going around the clock, sorting through 100,000 Epstein documents and flagging anything that mentioned President Trump, all while Trump denies this new Wall Street Journal story about a lewd birthday note and drawing that he gave Epstein years ago. Trump is now suing the Wall Street Journal for $10 billion, but Durbin says so much of this could be cleared up if Republicans in Congress would just vote to have these records go public.
I think there should be a full disclosure of the materials on Epstein. Statements by the Attorney General that she had all the issues and reviews on her desk for her to take a look at were kind of a promise to the American people that something was coming, and nothing has come out of it.
And I did ask the FBI to respond to these claims that somehow they were supposed to flag, and he mentioned President Trump. They simply said they have no comment.
And Paris, finally, your top political story of the week, and this is something you have experience with.
A little bit of experience, yes. It's a tough future here for public broadcasting and those who enjoy it. Congress voted this week to cut $1.1 billion. That's all the federal funding that the Corporation for Public Broadcasting gets. It's zeroing it out now. That, of course, funds PBS and NPR stations here in Chicago, but also in rural areas in Illinois and across the country. In some cases, these smaller stations account 50% of their budget to this federal funding, so they might have to close. But for local stations here, WBEZ officials tell me it represents about 6% of its budget they're going to have to cut. For WTTW, my former station, it's between 10 and 11%. Now, we spoke with Heather Norman, who runs the Illinois Public Media Council and a station in the Quad Cities. She says some of them will have no choice but to shut down.
A loss of this magnitude means hard decisions about programming, staffing, and community service. Across the state, public media station leaders will be making these kinds of hard decisions. Regardless of the percentage of federal funding, in a station's budget, there will be impacts to the communities we serve.
So this was part of the $9 billion rescissions package where Congress codified the DOGE cuts. The other big pot of money here, Scott, of course, foreign aid programs like USAID and PEPFAR. President Trump has signaled that he will absolutely sign these cuts to PBS and NPR. Of course, he and Republicans have claimed it's because of bias. Folks at PBS NPR say that's not true. The mission is to just do straight-ahead journalism, but certainly it's going to be some belt tightening at those places.
Before we let you go, we know it's summer break time. I'm just curious, does the fact that everybody's going to be going home, does that help the Epstein story to go away, die down, or do you think this thing only grows, and when they come back, does President Trump feel even more pressure to release more information?
Well, how many times do they go on their summer break, Scott, and then they go to these town halls and people make a big stink at the town halls, and that becomes big news? So that could happen here. But you also have the president asking the attorney general to ask a court to release grand jury testimony. Now, a former attorney in Chicago, a former prosecutor, told me, pay attention to the word grand jury testimony. So that's testimony from witnesses. That does not include other evidence. So it appears that the president and his lawyers very clearly chose their language that would limit the scope of what could be released on Epstein. So it doesn't seem, the more the president wants it to go away, the more it seems like a new wrinkle comes in this story.
Always calculating. Paris, thanks so much. Appreciate
You bet, Scott.